You know what? I think I'm going to be really disappointed to get rid of this tree. I completely love it. And I've got different cushions out for you today. We had Mr. Fox here, but I've brought out Mr. Stag. And behind there is another photograph enlargement that I had printed onto a cushion. I do love my decorative things. I'm actually just watching a really good podcast with Pearl Davis, and she's talking about conservative streamer Tim Pool, who seems to be rather psychotic, I have to say, and rather over emotional. You know me. I'm not an enemy of emotions. I'm all about the self-expression, but this guy seems to be going off on one. But the funny thing is, the subject that I've just paused it on is about trying to control absolutely everything. But the reality, my friends, is that when you embark on anything, big or small, whatever it is that you pick, never ever expect it always 100% of the time to be plain sailing on smooth placid waters. Don't do it. Be prepared and accept the fact that there are going to be bumps in the road. It's not really what happens actually in life that matters. It's how you respond and what principles you're guided by. So I talk about principles all the time, to be honest, because we can be flailing around quite a lot of the time, figuring things out and assimilating information and taking info out of memory banks from 5 or 10 or 20 years ago, all the useful stuff that we've learnt that, suddenly in a psychological sense becomes useful. The men with their man caves and their rows of different doohickeys and thingamajigs and whatchamacallits, and suddenly, that piece of string that's the very, very specific, sort of 17 centimetres long, suddenly, after 10 years of storing it, it's finally become useful. And that's what we're doing with our brains all the time, or at least trying to, is to try and bring all of that information in and use all of the resources that we already have, but accepting the fact also that there will be times where you haven't got a fucking clue what you're doing, and understanding that that's absolutely fine. And when you're in that particular situation where you feel like all the hope has gone, or you're at a massive dead end or a crossroads or whatever, there are two main options. And one of them is just to relax and understand that you keep doing what you're doing, the answers will come to you. Or, and you do that by trusting yourself more, by focusing on doing the things that you really enjoy doing and that you're good at and that have a real resonance with you. Or you ask for some help. And for some reason, the powers that be, right from the beginning, governments and institutions and teachers at school, all of those hideous exams that we had to sit our way through and endure when we're in our pre-teens and our adolescent teenage years, where we are absolutely overflowing with ideas and inspiration, and we have to sit in a classroom with unbelievably unpleasant people learning unbelievably boring stuff that none of us ever use ever again, and we're always pitted against each other. Oh, you're not allowed to confer with Richard, David. You have to sit there completely bewildered and itching to get out of your classroom chair, and we just hammer. we hammer all of the creativity joy out of children. Then we put them to work, you know, and then we do that for 40 years, get some kind of retirement. At least generations before us have done that. And then with a lot of them, I'm laughing, but with a lot of those people who have been through that absolutely hideous conveyor belt of a system, well, a couple of years after they finished working, even if they didn't particularly enjoy it, they collapse dead from a heart attack because the stress of it all finally catches up with them. But this exists all over the place. There are bumps and there are moments of doubt. But as much as I repeat it, I honestly do believe that trusting yourself more really does help, because I think that the most crippling part of, when people are progressing really well and suddenly get this huge flash of terror or doubt or feeling pointless, and even if it's not for very long, and they abandon all of the great work that they've done, is because the added pressure of doubting yourself and judging yourself so harshly is just too much for the human psyche to actually bear. So I think we actually go into, it's a controversial term now, isn't it? But we go into a psychological lockdown. And we have just had the actual tyrannical lockdowns. And we wonder why people say, why does nobody want to work? Well, I don't know. Maybe we were just exposed to military grade propaganda for the last half fucking decade. And we're questioning, what is all of this shit all about? Maybe we're going to try and rewrite the system, and we're just going to do things for ourselves. And the thing is, where I paused the podcast about trying to control everything, it's about people in the new media. They're on YouTube, they're on Rumble, doing stuff on Twitter. There aren't any hard and fast rules to any of this stuff. So it's no wonder that we feel like we're just being buffeted around like anchorless ships in the middle of a squall on the Atlantic Ocean. It is frightening and tough and unbelievably uncertain for people. There's no predictability for anybody these days. All of the old paradigms feel like they have completely melted and evaporated out into nothing. And we have to, rather than turning to asking other people for answers all the time, when I talk about reaching out to somebody for support, it's not really about the other person, the person that you're appealing to actually give you answers. It's just to be able to facilitate the space where you might actually be able to take a big deep breath in and out and gather yourself, pull yourself back down to earth, which is, in a philosophical note, it's why I think that it's really nice at Christmas. The smell of pine needles. It's very, very grounding. It's very, very earthing. And it can give a sense of stability in this crazily chaotic world in which we live. But a really, really helpful thing to do is to be able to actually learn to breathe through all of it. I find myself often telling myself, right, Martin, just calm down, don't rush, progress, good, learn to progress, but don't Don't race, don't rush, no haste. There is time. I think it's also really helpful to remind yourself of that. There is time. People have achieved great and glorious and wholesome and satisfying things, whatever scale it is that you aspire to. People have done it at all ages. There are some very, very, very young people who have done it. There are some very, very old people that have done it. But working consistently towards doing it is a favour to yourself. It's a way of believing in yourself more, a way of valuing yourself more. I talk a lot about believing in yourself, but it's also really important to value yourself and to understand that you do deserve to have the things that you want, to live the life that you want to lead, etc. So remind yourself of these things, and I think it can stop the doom loop of the modern world. And things like, again, anything, I like having nice things around me like this, and my artworks, and, you know, all these individual things that are meaningful to me. Find those for yourself. Set a bit of time aside to actually indulge them, and understand, if you are willing and there are things that you want, you can have the life that you want to lead. Always remember it, because we're here for one reason: for joy.